I'll segue into some music. I did have my Steely Dan Hey 19 playing earlier, and then they tried to put it on the microphone, but it wasn't there. And that was because how many A19s did we have this year? And lo and behold, you asked for that specifically, of like 150 amendments on the Senate floor, and it's like, gee, who got the A19? Abler?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
It was a special Liam Monahan Single Out the Tune Award selection that happened. So
I appreciate that. So what we're going to do, we've in our recess. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you. Recess. We're going to do Senator Aaron McQuaid and Chair Schumacher. We're going to move things around, but we're going to go right to Senator Fata. You have Article 2, Section 25. You want to talk about that, and people can start handing that out?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we heard this earlier this year also. It's just some language that prohibits assisted living facilities from requiring potential clients or residents from signing agreements that binds arbitration as a condition for admission or continuing their care.
Good. So you move to adopt Senate language Article 2, Section 25. All those in favor say aye.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, and Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This provision I would encourage a no vote on. It wasn't heard in the House with that, and so we would prefer not to adopt that.
Senator Abler.
Mr. Monahan had a comment.
Mr. Monahan.
Mr. Chair, members, I thought I heard you move to adopt the section, not to adopt the amendment. I'm sorry if I misheard you. I'm also trying to draft an amendment.
Yeah, the FATA one is the motion to adopt Senate language, Article 2, Section 25 is what I said. No? No? Clue me in. I had to sit and listen to people talk about stuff on the Senate floor, so my brain is a little mushled
Is
right
he
now.
not?
So.
Are you adopting? I thought you had an amendment. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Cool. I thought it was me, really. I did. Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so we're on page R16, I believe.
Yes.
Bottom of R16, going on to page R17.
Yep.
Senate side 36.17, assisted living facilities may not require any resident to sign an agreement for binding arbitration as a condition of admission or to receive care. This is a really important piece, and I would urge members to vote yes. We shouldn't have to sign away our right to have our day in court to receive care. This doesn't say that people can't voluntarily enter into arbitration agreements. They can't go through arbitration. It's just that it's not allowing binding arbitration as a condition of receiving care and housing services. So, I mean, if there's opposition to this in the audience, we should have them come up and talk about that.
I agree with you. Senator, we're going to go to you, and is there anybody who has opposition to this? Be more than happy to raise your hand. I'll call you to come on down. Senator Abler.
Then I raised him down. Just curious if Representative Schumacher would accept a question.
Representative Schumacher, Chair.
Yeah. Just, to me, this seems like just something that's, you and I share a concern for the operations. You know, we're not even questioning your motives, but this seems like something that's kind of an easy one. If you just have an opinion why you don't think it's a low-hanging fruit, simple thing.
Joe.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Abler. I think that this piece was part of the larger negotiation when the assisted living licensing went in, and that the arbitration piece was decided there. I understand that there are times to renegotiate on these pieces and to bring new language in. That's what we do here a lot of times, but because we didn't have the time or the inclination to hear it in the House, I'm not interested in voting for it today.
Mr. Chair.
Senator.
Was it the birds that sang turn, turn, turn?
You know, it was, and I believe, I had thought at the beginning when we had talked about, you know, if you listen to, I remember Senator Rasmussen saying one time, you heard every bill, and that was, I was under the impression we were trying to get as much done because of the fact the House had a little.
Mr. Chair, I was just accepting defeat. I just wanted
Oh, you were?
There's a song.
Forget it. I'm not listening, Joe.
Anyway, so apparently that season has not occurred in the House yet.
So what do you wanna-
At the proper season, I hope it does occur.
I love that. Senator Fazza, you want to go with the vote on this? You want to just do a voice vote?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator Quay.
Well, so, I just want to be really clear, and Chair Schumacher, maybe you can answer this too. So part of this language is that a facility must not require a resident as a condition of admission or as a requirement to continue to receive care. And so I guess what I'm wondering is it possible then that somebody could be receiving care in a facility, they are not under a binding arbitration agreement, and then something has happened that resident might want to go to court, and then the facility's like, you got to sign this binding arbitration agreement to continue to live here. Now they're choosing between getting justice in court or staying in their facility and receiving care?
Chair Schumacher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you repeat the last part of that, please?
Senator McQuaid?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Chair Schumacher. So if you look at 36.187 side, we're saying that an assisted living facility must not require a resident as a condition to continue to receive care. And so the question I'm asking is, if somebody is in a facility and they're receiving care, and then something happens where that resident might want to go to court because something happened to them, and then the facility says, hey, you got to sign this binding arbitration agreement, and then as a condition to continue to receive care, and so then they're going to have to choose between getting justice for something that happened or their current housing and services. Is that something like that's, by not adopting this language, that's something that could happen?
Chair Schumacher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator McQuaid, and that would be something we would have considered had we heard it in the House. For this piece of it, there's probably a lot of different things we would have considered on this had we had that, and so I can't give you an answer for that at the moment.
Do you want to bring up anybody, Senator McQuaid, maybe Parici or somebody that would
Yeah,
speak to the
that'd be great,
evidence?
Ombudsperson.
Is there something, Ms. Rodini, that we should know from the Office of Long-Term Care, Ombudsman? And if not, it's fine. Yep, you're coming.
Chair Hoffman, committee members, good afternoon. Parice Rodina, Office of Ombudsman for Long-Term Care, here with the Consumer Advocates Coalition. We support the ability of residents to have a private right of action, to be able to seek justice for issues that occur when they are in an assisted living facility. A binding arbitration agreement does impede that, and so we would be in favor of adoption of the Senate language.
Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you be willing to comment on the scenario I've just laid out? Is that a possibility? Is that something that could happen or has happened?
Ms. Parici? Rodini?
Chair Hoffman, Senator McQuaid, off the top of my head, I am not thinking of an example of this happening recently, but it certainly could happen. It certainly could happen, and that would put a resident in a very difficult position. They'd be choosing between staying in their home, potentially experiencing some retaliation, which this would also be in that scenario, and not being able to seek justice for something that has happened to them in their home.
Senator McQuaid or Senator Abler? Senator Abler?
Well, thanks, and I hope that we're just in the realm of hypothetical, particularly for the situation with a current resident. It would really be nice, if I support nursing homes, long-term care really strong, but if I heard a story about one of those operators that coerced their resident to do this in the middle of this, even just after they're there,
Right.
that would really be a bad thing. So, I know that the people are watching this thing, and so there's certain things you just should not do. And so this should be a never thing, Mr. Chair. So
Never.
maybe by us mentioning it, and Senator McQuaid for just offering the possibility. So I can understand the argument about arbitration coming in or not. Now you know the rules. Anyway, so never, Mr. Chair. That would be a good one. Never
Any more? Senator Fatez asked for a roll call. Conversations, Representative
Gander.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
See, Representative Gander, I almost called you Senator Gander for a minute there, so.
Don't insult me.
I know, that would have been one of those moments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would there be a representative of industry that could come up and that would tell us in some way if this would hamstring them on their side as far as collection, to just round out our conversation? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I can sure ask that. You want me to play some bumper music? Anybody want to call? Oh, here she comes. Come on up. Help us.
Turn.
No, two people coming up. For the record, inseparable, I heard Representative Gander say. For the record.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Erin Hubert with the Long-Term Care Imperative. I could appreciate a rephrase or a reminder of the question.
Representative Gander, do you want to rephrase that question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we know that this relationship between, say, a long-term care facility and a resident, and then you bring in the family, you might bring in a third-party payer, can be a kind of a complex relationship, can be a bit dynamic if their financial situation changes and so on. Is there, in your viewpoint, if we adopt this wording, would it some way greatly worsen the ability for, let's say, a long-term care facility to be able to collect? Is this going to have an adverse effect for that industry, or would it be a win-win for they and the resident?
Ms. Hubert?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Gander. The statutes for assisted living settings have already very strict requirements around when we can terminate a contract, when we can constitute non-payment for a contract, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the example that Senator McQuaid offered would already be prohibited under the existing requirements we already have. I think our concern around binding arbitration, particularly given that the House did not hear the bill, is that we haven't had an opportunity to fully debate and evaluate all of these positions.
No, you're good. You want to repeat that last part?
I think our concern around the House, or around the Senate position versus the House position on the question of binding arbitration really is that we haven't had an opportunity to fully evaluate the nuances of the language in the House.
Fully evaluate. Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, it's not nuanced. I mean, it's three lines. An assisted living facility must not require any resident or the resident's representative to sign an agreement for binding arbitration as a condition of admission or a requirement to continue to receive care. So it's not nuanced, it's very clear. And we did hear it in the Senate, and you were present for that. So did you not have a chance to evaluate this position before, during, or after that hearing?
Ms. Shepard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator McQuaid. I'm recalling the Senate hearing, and I believe we had concerns at that time as well.
Senator, follow up. Senator Fata? Then I got to go back to
Yeah,
Gander because he originally.
No, that's, yes, sharing a mind over here. What were those concerns, if you don't mind sharing?
Ms. Hubert?
Mr. Chair and Senator McQuaid, my recall is not at its best at the moment. I believe at the time when we heard the bill, there was not a lot of advance notice that the bill was being scheduled, and I think our concerns largely resolved around the fact that this was a very carefully constructed compromise in 2019. The conditions under which we are allowed to offer or use binding arbitration have already been deliberated during that compromise, and I think this undid the spirit of that compromise.
Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And while I deeply respect the work that my predecessors did, I was not here in 2019. Many of my colleagues were not here in 2019. And so, you know, we're in 2025. It's been 6 years. And I think saying that this was a negotiated position 6 years ago isn't really helping me understand why we wouldn't want to, tell me what it is that the opposition was then and now. And again, it doesn't prohibit people from, or long-term care facilities from offering arbitration. It just prevents you from requiring it as a condition for admission or to continue living there, which I believe is already a condition for Medicaid and Medicare. So this is just for private pay patients, right?
Is that clarification on that, Ms. Hubert?
Mr. Chair, Senator McQuaid, we also weren't in these positions in 2019, so you're probably catching us at a bit of a disadvantage to recall all of the debate then. I believe there are conditions around arbitration for nursing homes under CMS requirements. I'm not experienced at the moment to know what those requirements are. So maybe I'll just
All right,
leave my comment
we're going to
there.
go back to, does you have a follow-up, or do you want to go to Representative Gander? Jim's good. Yeah, go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, yes, there, under CMS rules, there's a prohibition on binding pre-arbitration agreements. And so then so we're sitting here talking about a piece that has been in a Senate bill, was been in the Senate bill when it was, in our committee, when we heard it as a bill, it was in our bill when it left the committee, it is now here in conference committee. It's 3 lines, and I really do want to understand, like, you don't have to have been there in 2019, but today, what is the opposition to relieving private pay patients from being required to sign binding arbitration agreements and give up their day in court as a precondition to being admitted or to continue to receive services?
I want to take a recess to meet with Representative Newer and Representative Schumacher. Is that okay? Thank you. Thank you. So, Senator Fata motions to adopt Senate language, Article 2, Section 25. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Now we're going to go to newer, your hospice care bill of rights. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. I think this is the language that the advocates have already agreed to, and we're ready to move on.
Great. Motion to adopt Senate language, Article 2, Section 14 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Representative Chair Schumacher, you have an oral amendment that you want to do before you do the various non-controversial changes, or do you want to do that during it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it would be just as clean to do it now and then run those sections as amended.
Okay.
Okay, and would you be able to verbalize it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you need some bumper music?
Right, so the objective is in the Article 2 sections, House Sections 17 and 18, to add an effective date. And that would read that this section is effective January 1st, 2026, and applies to all assisted living contracts executed on or after January 1st, 2026.
Members, do you want to have nonpartisan staff? I understand that. It sounds like you're getting all things concise
Right.
there on January 1, 2026.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The attempt with that is this is the language that we worked on in the House, these three sections. The one had the effective date. We're just trying to build it as a package of the
And
same effective date.
nonpartisan staff makes sense to you? You can fit that in? Ms. Pinelli?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it made sense. Do you want me to try to read it back?
That would be great. Then we'll go off of what you read back. If not, I think people get it. So go ahead.
All right, Mr. Chair, so I believe we are inserting on page R17A2 after line 27.10, and then also on page R18A2 after line 28.28, a special effective date that says this section is effective January 1, 2026, and applies to all assisted living contracts executed on or after that date.
All those in favor of that? Go ahead, Senator McQuaid.
I'm so sorry, I was trying to follow along. Is that new language, or is that language that's in this bill and I'm just missing it? The new contracts language, what page is that on?
Senator McQuaid, Danielle, do you want to, or Ms. Pinelli, do you want to tell her what the page that you're on, 27.10 is on R?
Mr. Chair, members, we're adding that special effective date after House Sections 17 and 18 that appear on pages R17 and R18, and it lines up with the with a House effective date that is for Section 16 on page R16, except I believe we'd have to, for that effective date on page 26, line 21, delete after a change of ownership that occurs.
Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there is that affecting anything? Is it affecting any contracts that exist now if we do that effective date change?
Mr. Chair, members, my understanding is that it would affect contracts going forward beginning January 1, 2026.
Chair Schumacher, do you want to add to that?
Mr. Chair, that's my understanding of it too. That was the intent, just to have these three parts that were working together anyway, to have that same date for all of this at the same time.
Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so currently, if we didn't amend that language, what would be different?
Chair Schumacher, you want to explain the difference, the different dates?
so weird when you're looking that way and referring to me. Think it, the.
Don't you know in the Senate, we're not allowed to look at you when we're on the Senate floor?
The effective date would be, from my understanding, just the standard August 1st then.
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel like the language that was being described is we're deleting something.
Oh.
For it's like, and so can someone describe that to me? And I, for whatever reason, cannot find where it is. So that's why I'm asking for that.
No, you're good. Chair Newer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is reference to our 16A2, that section that we're removing the ownership section, subdivision 5. I think that is where we are making the changes. I'm looking to the nonpartisan staff.
Mr. Chair and members, what we would be doing on page R16A2 on house language, page 26, line 21, we would just be deleting after a change of ownership that occurs. And then we would be taking,
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair Schumacher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Because that section dealt with contracts, the other two sections of that don't deal with contracts, and so the intent is just to have the same date, but because they didn't deal with contracts, we didn't need that same language for the contracts in those other two sections.
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think my brain has just reached maximum capacity, but if we're just changing effective dates, that's fine.
Yeah, it was lined it up, but I was just like, okay, but that was a good conversation. All those in favor of what we just talked about indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. There it is. Representative Chair Schumacher, various non-controversial motion to adopt Senate Section 2.3 as amended and 4.6, House Section 6.9, Senate Section 12, House Section 11, Senate Section 17, House Section 12, Senate Section 20, House Sections. Is that what you want to do?
House sections.
Oh, keep going, Joe. 14, 16, Senate Section 23 as amended, which we did. House Section 17, 18 as amended, and 19 as amended. Senate Sections 30, 31, House Sections 20, 22, 23, Senate Section 35, and House Section 24.
That's my motion, Mr.
That's your motion. Any conversation on that? All those in favor of saying aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign. There we go. Now we're going to Article 1, Aging and Disability Services. Senator Abler.
Actually, Senator Monahan.
We're good? Article 1, Aging and Disability Service, Representative Noor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a simple change. It's removing stakeholders and changing it to community partners.
Oh. We're on Article 1. If you look at House A11 to House Language Article 1, Section 3, there's a discussion on the House 11 amendment that says those in favor of adopting. I'm reading this verbatim here. Why am I reading this verbatim here? Day services stakeholders to community partners. Senator Abler, do you remember the conversation we had about words changing words? Are they stakeholders, community partners? You want to get Christy Graham up here to? I'm kidding. Everybody had the amendment in front of them. All those in favor of the A11 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. We're going to move to the next one. Representative Gander, I think this is what we were talking about earlier. You got the A13?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This should sound vaguely familiar. This one really does update the effective date to August 1st of 2025.
Members, this is agreed upon. Everybody, the amendment's being handed out. And thank you, Representative Gander, for that. That was
broken record.
You're a broken record on one. All those in favor of the A13, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. We move on. I'm thinking Senator May Quaid. No. Yes. Is this right? This is Article 1. We're going to entertain motions to adopt language within Article 1. Senator May Quaid, you have the motion to adopt Senate language, Article 1, Section 1, Subdivision 1A, Paragraph A. Is that correct?
No, Mr. Chair.
You do not.
I do not. We are working on that in the Judiciary Committee.
We are. So, members, I need advice. Jim. Liam. Mr. Monahan.
Oh. Oh, okay, yes, Mr. Chair. Oh, paragraph A. Oh, yes, no.
Yes, we're good.
Yep.
All those in favor to adopt section, Article 1, Section 1, Subdivision 1A, Paragraph A, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Same sign, we're good. Representative Newer, do you have the motion to adopt House Language Article 1, Section 4 and 14? All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. I was, so,
Look at this.
Mr.
I
Chair,
got
can
this.
you-
I got this beautiful, nifty little thing. I don't want it anymore. Can you guys get me one that I can?
Mr. Chair, was wondering, could you say the motion that's before the committee again, just to make sure we can follow?
Yeah, I can do that. You were in Article 1, Rasmussen, you want the McQuaid motion conversation?
The one that Chair Noor,
Noor, the one that I started to gavel down.
yes.
You want a conversation on that?
On Article 1, Sections 4 and 14.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, it's just, and I don't know if we have anyone here from the counties, but I believe this is on the long-term care decision reviews and has a requirement on lead agencies. And so as the Senate was going through this, we were just concerned around additional costs and obligations on our counties. So just wanted to see if they had any feedback or concerns on this language.
Sure.
So Mr. Freeman's here.
You think Matt Freeman's in the audience? I can't see him.
I think he is, Mr. Chair.
Oh, there he is.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Freeman.
Mr. Chair, members, Matt Freeman, Association of Minnesota Counties and Minnesota Association of County Social Service Administrators. We do not have concerns about Section 14. We do have concerns about Section 4. Counties have been working with Legal Aid and Disability Law Center about their concerns over the last couple of years related to this. And in summary, Max's concerns, agrees with concerns related to the notice of action form and are interested in improving that. However, we believe that the notice of action and the conversations around that determination, plus the appeals opportunity that is afforded an individual in that process, is sufficient to meet the needs of those individuals, and that counties should and from our experience, are engaging with individuals around changes in the eligibility determinations that are taking place. Adding an additional administrative step would add costs and add burden to an already burdened workforce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, and with Representative Noor's motion, I don't see any problems with Article 1, Section 14, but I'm just concerned with the opposition of the counties to Article 1, Section 4. So happy to take advice from House colleagues on that, but it seems like there are some concerns on implementation from our county partners on this language.
So Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we divide this motion and adopt House language, Article 1, Section 14? And then we can talk about Section 4.
That would work. Do you want to, somebody want to read that, what she wants to do?
Mr. Chair, since it's my motion, it's dividing the articles that we're adopting. Motion to adopt House language.
Chair Noor,
Article
you're getting a
14.
head shake.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Senator.
Council says you can't divide the amendment. It's all one topic.
It's all one topic.
I mean, the motion, yeah, it's one
okay.
topic.
What do you want to do?
Talk about the topic.
Huh?
I have a question on the topic.
You got a question on the topic, go
we
ahead.
shall discuss the
So,
topic.
we didn't hear this. I mean, that's not a reason not to do things, but what bill was this in?
Representative Newer, you want to tell everybody what this was in?
Because we picked up a lot of policy in there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Senate File 257. House File 257. I think there was also a Senate file. Senator Bolden carried the bill. This, Mr. Chair, it is based on, it's Senate File 141.
All right. Well, so can somebody tell me if we don't do this, this is like people that need a quick decision on something. So Minister Freeman can just comment, if we don't pass this, what's the current operational structure for people that need this?
Mr. Freeman.
Mr. Chair, and again, apologies if I've created additional confusion. I do see that in section 14, it refers to that review process. Again, our interest would be updating that notice of action form that is confusing, not necessarily incorporating the review process that's in section 4. But the larger process, as I understand it, is that an individual works with their county staff and there's a discussion related to the change in the notice of benefits. A county staff member should be engaging with them in an informed way throughout that change and ultimately with the notification. And then if an individual is interested in appealing that decision, they have the recourse to apply for that appeal process, and I believe there's a timeline set related to that. There is an opportunity for county staff and the individual to work out differences both before the notice has been offered and in between the time in which the notice is offered and the appeal is done. Nothing prevents folks from having conversations if there's an opportunity for a productive conversation. I think the experiences that I've heard from members are that oftentimes there is a disagreement between the two parties that requires that third-party intervention to come to a conclusion. And so at a certain point, continuing those conversations outside of the appeals process is not ultimately fruitful. And so adding in the additional requirement and the timelines of engagement here would add the additional burden that counties are concerned about. Does that answer your question, Senator?
Well, it's helpful. And so so really the bottom line of this thing is it puts a short time frame on it. And people are concerned that the time frame has been too long.
So we're on this.
Is that kind of like the 10 days? Is that that's problematic?
Mr. Chair and members, this creates a new section and a new process. So it isn't adjusting the existing timeline related to appeals. It is creating an additional process in between the engagement and determination of the content of that notice of action and the appeals process. So it adds an additional step in there, and then the ability to turn around and respond within 10 days, and then to continue that work would be a challenge with our existing workforce. We've had a number of conversations with committees in both bodies about challenges related to min choices assessments and case management and the ongoing work there.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And so, like I said, two questions. I'll start with my first one, I guess. Set the first one first. So Representative Neuer, what group brought this forward? Do you remember that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a matter of individuals who have applied for the programs and then decisions have been made. All they're requesting is a review of the decision. This came from our advocates for disability advocates who really want to make sure that if their decision made at the county level, this is about a matter of life and death sometimes. You know, when you make those decisions, there's a timeline that the counties have to respond. And this is beyond that timeline. When somebody is denied, suspended, or terminated, they want to make sure that the right decision is made. Sometimes maybe documents have been sent. I'm sure you've seen the headline in Star Tribune that individuals who are submitting their documentation and everything else, they may be denied because the timeliness of the processing of that case. And then, you know, they get denied completely for that services. So we're trying to make sure that they can intervene and have this intervention in place.
And if I remember right, Jim, I think it was a disability law center that was behind some of this too, if I remember. No, but I remember them bringing this stuff forward. We didn't hear it. So Senator Fata. No, not on this one. We'll come back to that question that you and Rasmussen just raised. So Senator Abler, back to Neuer.
Question. So would this be aggravated by the use of contractors or these county staff that are the ones that the contractor problem is a overarching thing, then the counties don't take responsibility for that. That would not be a piece of this. Are they making decisions like this?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I believe it would be either a contractor or a county employee case manager who would be having that engagement and that conversation with the individual as they're making that notice and then following through that appeals process or ongoing engagement.
This is Mr. Chair. I mean, I just hear hardly anything responsive about, if I have a complaint somebody has, it's the contractor didn't call them back. Well, you get somebody different every day, and like, oh, who are you again? And then they have a great talk, and then they don't do anything. So I could, I think if we wanted to focus on contractors compared to the counties, that might be something, I would be happy to burden the contractors to do a good job and be accountable to their county, you know, to the county that hired them. Anything I can do to make that work better. And, we have a little bit of time, Mr. Chair, but I'm not comfortable with this just yet, but if we could focus on contractors, that would be.
Yeah, and you know what, and I owe an apology to this committee. I'm so focused on the fact that I was just rushing to do things, and I will slow the roll down here, and because I jumped on some other things, and I know we got to come back to that. So what Senator McQuaid, to go with that, and then Newer wants to jump in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to say for both my House colleagues and anyone, I think this is a good bill. It's a Senator Bolden bill. I plan to join her on it. This is a bill that didn't get a hearing in the Human Services Committee, so we didn't hear them all. And so I think, but I join in the, like, I'm concerned about what I'm hearing. Like, do we feel like we've set up the right process? There's a parallel process? And then, has DHS assessed a cost? Like, does this go in a budget bill? I don't think I'm hearing opposition to this idea. I think it could be a good bill. I just, I want to feel better about the concerns I'm hearing. Can we put it in a budget bill?
I suppose we could. I mean, I don't know. Schumacher, Newer, what do you guys think?
Mr. Chair, I'm open to having continued conversation so that we can put it in the budget bill, but I just wanted to see if someone in the
Would the
public-
department want to comment on this? So here's my deal. I don't want to burden the counties anymore. They're up to their necks. I'm really irritated and unhappy with the contractor process where the counties they don't feel like they're responsible. And so I'm kind of torn. I don't understand this well enough. That's why I'm asking. So
Here comes Elise Bailey. Welcome to the committee,
she gets
Elise
more
Bailey.
per diem, Mr. Chair, when she testifies.
What's that?
She gets more per diem when she testifies.
Thank you very much. Chair Hoffman, members, this provision does have a systems cost for the department.
Oh, it does? Chair Schumacher, Chair Newer, I think we should, this should
Mr.
go over
Chair,
to budget, don't you think?
We'll transfer this conversation to the budget if the co-chair agrees.
Mr.
Senator
Chair, just
Abler.
along the way, I'm just curious the department's view of the policy of it. Do they have an opinion about that?
I don't know. Does the department have a policy opinion about that? Do you know?
Chair Hoffman, members, I don't think we have policy concerns about the provision, but I probably am not the correct person to ask.
No,
I'm
that's fine.
immersed
Is there
in the
another person in
money.
the audience that might have an opinion,
you
Mr. Chair,
think-
who could comment on this?
Maybe, I don't know. Is there anybody
No,
in the
she's kind of
audience?
busy, but.
Do you want to you want to wait? You're good. All right. So we'll
I'm
just
told
wait.
we're neutral.
All right. So, members, it looks like Newer, do you want to just, Schumacher, Newer, you guys want
Well, we'll
to
make
just?
it easy. I'll withdraw the motion, Mr.
All
Chair.
right, so that motion is, Senator Rasmussen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a series of motions here, if you're ready to proceed with that.
I'm never ready, but you know what?
Or do you want to go to?
Senator Fate had a question before you, because you guys pointed out, because I
Yes,
was going
yeah.
so fast, you two pointed out to me, there's a provision in a Schumacher amendment that you wanted to bring out and talk about.
Mr. Chair, please go to Senator Fate, and then I'm happy to.
So you're going to yield to Senator Fata?
Yes.
No, we don't yield in the Senate. Senator Fata, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And I wanted to revisit sections 14 through 16. It's going to be page R16, A2, subdivision 5, the change of ownership language. It says
Can you wait till we get there?
Yeah, yep.
Sorry. right here. And you're talking about 26.17, is that what you're looking
Correct.
at?
Yep, correct.
All right.
So under the change of ownership existing contracts, it says, following a change of ownership, the new licensee must honor the terms of an assisted living contract in effect at the time of the change of ownership until the end of the contract term. So I guess my question is, if it's like a change of ownership from a family member to a family member, husband, spouse, son, daughter,
Yeah.
grandma, grandpa, and their grandfather in for old terms on a previous license, would that mean that they're no longer grandfathered in and they have to abide by the new license terms, I guess? If that makes sense what I'm asking.
Chair Newer, Chair Schumacher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Fata. From my understanding of the way that their contracts work, that wouldn't have an impact on there, that those changes happen fairly regularly anyway, and that's part of their system as it is.
Yep, who do you want to get that confirmed? Senator Fazio, you want to get that confirmed? Who do you want to get that confirmed
For
from?
anyone in the audience,
Anybody?
I can confirm that.
Who can
yeah.
confirm it?
Elise or Christie, I don't know.
Confirmation. Confirm.
Or Sean Burke, yeah.
Sean Burke. Is there, no Sean Burke? I'm so glad we have an ombudsman for the Office of Long-Term Care.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Chair Hoffman, thank
Yeah.
you. Chair Udina, Office of Ombudsman for Long-Term Care. Yes, these would be referring to contracts between the assisted living facility and the resident.
And the resident,
So-
okay, good. That's the clarification I needed. Perfect. Okay. Good.
You're good? You
Yep.
guys good with that? Senator Rasmussen, follow up? You guys, you two raised it. Yeah, going to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm ready to make some motions, if that's okay.
No, I want to sit here and I want to talk about, how the Twins did today, Jordan. I mean, no, you're good. I'm good. Keep going.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to adopt House Section 1, Senate Sections 2 through 7, House Section 3 as amended, House Section 5, Senate Section 10, House Sections 7 and 8, House Section 9 as amended, Senate Sections 13 through 15, and House Sections 12 and 13.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Very nicely done. Senator Rasmussen, coming to you again. We're going to House Article 3, Direct Care and Treatment.
Yes, Mr. Chair, yeah, we're moving into Article 3. I have a couple motions, but first I have the A11 amendment that I'd like to move for consideration.
Is that being passed out as we talk?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I'll just say this is making changes to effective dates on the Senate language in Article 3, Sections 45 through 49, which I'll be moving, assuming this amendment is adopted.
Okay. Discussion to Senate A11 amendment. Seeing no further discussions, those in favor of the A11 amendment signify by saying aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. The motion prevails in the Senate A11 amendment to the Senate language, sections 45 to 49, is adopted. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now I think we're moving into adopting language within Article 3. So I would move to adopt Senate language, Sections 45 through 49 as amended.
Okay. Motion to adopt Senate language, sections 45 to 49 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. There you go. Now, Representative Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to adopt House Sections 1 through 25, Senate Section 26, House Sections 26 to 39, Senate Sections 40 and 41, House Sections 41 to 43, and House Sections 55 to 89.
Motion to adopt House Sections 1 to 25, Senate Section 26, House Section 2639, Senate Sections 40 and 41, House Sections 41 to 43, and House Sections 55 to 89. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Now we're going to House Article 4, Behavioral Health. I think the good senator from Anoka.
So I don't screw it up and ask Mr. Monahan to make it.
Is this how he was in 2011, Joe?
So but there's something we have to do. So, and they worked on it and they know what's going on, so thank you.
Oh, yeah, the comprehensive assessment, SUD assessment. Mr. Monahan.
Mr. Chair, members, Senator Abler would like to move the House A10 amendment to Article 4, Section 3.
Any discussion to the House
We have to see the amendment first.
A10 amendment? Well, I'm reading this, so it's slowly being handed out.
This really is a script, and it's like, Mr. Chair, have you checked our ratings online? I noticed we have a few less people than
Do you remember, so
is that a hint, or are we doing
you
it
actually had, when you were chair, honest to God, Schumacher and Nuri, here's a little bit of information for
all?
you.
They want to know this.
We were tracking, when Senator Abler was the chair of this committee, we would track to see what his online appearance was during 2020, right, Jim? And at one moment, I made the announcement there were more people watching his committee than there were actually watching the federal congressional House hearing the same day. And so we had bragging rights. And actually, the people that do this TV show, you know, or whatever it is called, they actually said we had the highest amount of people watching online. And so that became something in 2020 that, it's trivia that nobody really wins any, you know, games over. Representative Gander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is that when you brought in the friendly banter, or was that here before? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I love these guys. Senator Abler.
Well, I was admiring the script here. I just wondered how I got the script to fix the House language, although I used to be in the House, Mr. Chair. So any way I can make House language improved, I think I'm all for that. So I'd like to move the A10 amendment, and I'll stand for questions.
Oh, my God. All those in favor of the A10 amendment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Going back to the Representative Frederick.
Do we have to move the article? Oh, all that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the A9 amendment to the House language, Article 4, Section 25. It incorporates feedback that we got from the department regarding recovery community organizations, and also builds on the work that we did last biennium in the legislature, trying to address fraud in that space as well. So we established a certification process to make sure recovery community organizations are strong. We want to make sure that they are strong going forward. We know that peer supports in the recovery space are one of the most effective ways to help someone be successful in the recovery journey. And so we, this year with this amendment, we are reducing the number of certifiers down to one and calling them out by name, which is Marco. But should Marco ever become non-existent, we're also giving the department the ability to set up a new certifying agency in the future. There was a small issue last year after we put things into law where somebody went around to the RCOs that existed and encouraged them to go to one of the certifiers that we had set up in law, who was not set up. It took them about 3 weeks to get set up to be able to do the certification process. And those organizations then were able to go to an administrative law judge and say, hey, I tried going through this RCO or through the certification process, but because they weren't ready for it, a judge just said, okay, and gave them a stamp that they could bill for Medicaid, which sidesteps the process that we were very intentional about as a legislature. So this says that anyone that goes to an administrative law judge, that okay only lasts for 2 years before they have to attempt the certification process again.
Sounds like, Senator Abler, that this is a compromise, and you said ARCO. No, it's not the National Association. I think it's the Minnesota ARCO, MinARCO, that we set up. Dave Baker had done all the work on this, and I think Luke Frederickson and Dave Baker were the ones who really started working on this, and I believe Don Gilman is also helping out with that stuff. Is that right? So, Senator Rasmussen, question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess I just, and this is not to pick on Marco in particular, but I just am always concerned when we pick a entity that the state doesn't necessarily have any control over, and we kind of hand over authority for certification to them. And so I'd almost prefer language that allows the commissioner to select a statewide recovery organization that may be Marco, but just wanted to see if Representative Frederick had any comments on that or thoughts. And again, I'm not an expert in the SUD area, and there's other members that I defer to, so I'd also be curious to other conferees' thoughts on specifically having Marco in statute here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, that's a great question. Representative Frederick, do you want to kind of talk about that process? This has been something that's near and dear to your expertise for a long time, so you want to...
It actually goes back to my first term in the legislature where working with the department, it was in statute just saying the department gets to pick who the best person is. It was Marco, is who they chose. And so after the work we did for the last few years, and fighting some of the fraud that was existing in that space, we want to make sure that Marco is empowered to keep doing that. I would say that it is a space that I'm paying very close attention to. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle in the House are also paying attention to. I think that they're definitely on the radar of the department as well. So should we ever have a concern with any organization, I mean, honestly, about anywhere in law, I'm always up for going back to it. And if I wasn't confident in this group doing a really good job of working with RCOs throughout the state to support them, to help them be most successful, I wouldn't be the one pushing for this language.
Senator Abler.
We had hearings about this, specifically Marco, which was very biased in their selections.
Yes.
The people, tribal groups came and said, Marco wouldn't pick us because they saw us as competitors. Maybe you don't know that, but this is extremely controversial to me just because of their past. And they were sitting there kind of with a little surly attitude toward us. And like, I was unimpressed. This is 2-3 years ago or something. So we should work on this, but unless they become better and they suddenly have become less proprietary, they were providers, the people on the boards are providers, and it was, if you would have watched the video of our hearings, you'd go, holy something, and like, can't believe it. So I would be voting no on this, and I would be problematic about this, selecting that group, and maybe Ms. Grom can tell me that they're being reformed and they're wonderful.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I got you. Let's go to Representative Frederick first, because it is the ongoing process, and Baker, I mean, you know, you look back, Jim, the years on that. So let's go to Representative Frederick and then Christie.
So just, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as Representative Baker and I, before session started this year, we held a virtual town hall and invited every single RCO in the state. And this was actually one of the ideas that we put out there to all of the RCOs and say, what do you think of this idea? There was not a single RCO that attended that town hall that raised opposition to this language. I just want to put that out there. So I hear the concerns that maybe something didn't work so well in the past.
Well, they were really arrogant. I mean, Luke, I got to tell you, I remember Jim was the chair, and it was just one of those moments where you just go. So you and Christie, and I know you and Baker are doing that, so I just want to validate what Jim was saying. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I think that's fair. I just want to say that we were very intentional reaching out across and literally opened it up to every single RCO that was in the state to vet this policy language through, and no one raised an issue with it there.
Let's get Christie. Talk to us. What's going on in that world? Because, you know, you helped set it up.
Mr. Chair, members, for the record, Christy Grom with the Department of Human Services. So I'll try to give you some of the background here and just maybe clarify as you consider whether or not to adopt this amendment. So I just want to kind of set the record straight that MARCO, the Minnesota Association for Recovery Organizations, is different from ARCO, the National Association for Recovery Organizations. And that, Senator Abler and Senator Hoffman, I believe, is what you're thinking about from a few years ago when ARCO used to certify recovery community organizations in Minnesota to determine if they could be eligible vendors of MA, medical assistance. I will say that ARCO approved most of the entities that they certified, I want to say in the 80 to 90 percentile range, and the issue at that time was related to a particular recovery community organization called Refocus that had some egregious issues, and ARCO at the time was not willing to certify them, probably for good reason in retrospect. So setting all of that aside, ARCO has changed its model to be a little bit different, and so for a period of time, they weren't even certifying recovery community organizations. In the meantime, we've built this homegrown Minnesota Association for Recovery Organizations that Representative Frederick is talking about. And that is sort of the entity that we would delegate this authority to. I will say that DHS has a contract with MARCO, so we do have the ability to, if things go off the rails, if for some reason they're out of alignment with national best practices, the contract deliverables that we have in place with them, we would have the ability to enforce and make sure that they're following all of the requirements that we would expect, and I assume are your expectations as well. So I don't know if that helps you or if you have any other specific questions.
Senator Abler, and then go to Rasmussen.
Well, Mr. Chair, it calms you down a little bit, but I'm not sure what we're fixing. I mean, there were people from Rochester, there was a man and a woman. I mean, they weren't married, but they were just like two different people. And they had like the worst attitude. And there was some group that was up from central Minnesota, some tribal guy, and he just wasn't given any cred at all. And it wasn't, the refocusing, I get that, for how I helped that happen. Sorry. But I wish you could hear from some of those people from the past, and I don't know ARCO or MARCO, and we were trying to keep all that straight, but they were the Minnesota version of it, as I recall, and it was a thing, and I thought they were just discriminatory, and I was not happy with, and I thought they were trying to carve out a niche for themselves. That's my memory of it.
I was there.
They're better, but just the last question, why do we have to name them if you're already using them?
Christie, you want to?
Mr. Chair, Senator Abler, so MARCO is pretty recent. I believe they just started certifying not long ago, so I'm not sure if we're thinking about the same organization.
Let me get this. There was that national association that was called ARCO.
Yeah.
That's why I
But
think.
there was a MARCO then too, wasn't there?
They started we recognized them, I think, and Luke, please get that. I think Baker, it was 2023 in that committee, the conversation was to create this entity that would be like, we gave them some seed money, right? And it was, their whole purpose was to try to collaborate and clarify. But you are spot on. The same people that were in your committee hearing that absolutely were there. It was not a good time. And as a matter of fact, when we spoke up, I believe I was sitting back here and I was accused of many things. And by the end of the day, there was some Medicaid fraud by a certain company, right? And so I think what Luke and Baker did, Jim, was to go out and gather this and to create. I mean, they are our, we've always said for the longest time, experts. But I get you on that. And I think, Luke, do you want to talk about that
Just
maybe?
one more question. We'll be done. I don't have to carry this on all day. Are there different people than those people involved in this board? Because those people were rude, and they were not the kind of people I would want running this thing. So if you tell me it's different folks but if it's those individuals, I think they were, I was not impressed. If you get that idea from me, they were not the kind of people I would want to have an exclusive thing. If it's a whole new board and they're like doing all this stuff and they're squared away and they're inclusive and they're reaching in every community, but that's not what, it's just, if it's different people, then, I'll probably abstain and and I'll be done talking. But I want to tell this MARCO group that be as good as we think you're supposed to be. And who knows how long I'll get to be here. There's an election coming up next year, and I'm already targeted, but if this is a problem and I'm still here, I'm gonna just continue to remind you, you better take care of these people, and it's not just the people you're authorizing, it's the people at the end of the pipeline that desperately need what it is. And all these different cultures and subgroups and all that, without that, they're gonna come to great harm. And I think that, you know, Representative Fredericks has got that same idea, so just, I'm gonna be quiet now and say whatever you want, and I'm gonna abstain. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Frederick, any response to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There were a lot of questions asked. What I would say, one of the questions was, where did this come from? It came from the RCO community, which is then why we had the town hall to ask the broader community, and that is what the response that we got. So this is a direct response from the RCOs across the state of why we're doing this. The current board of Marco has many members on it. Some are new to the RCO community within the last few years. So there's a lot of voices that they try to be inclusive of on that board. I don't know the specific people that you were referencing in the past, but I do know that there's new people that are new to the space in general that are on the board now.
There's one. So,
Mr.
you're done?
Chair?
Senator Rasmussen, and then I think we're good. I appreciate the work. I really appreciate it. We've given Frederick and Baker, and now Frederick and Gilman, you know, it's been really good for that. So, Senator.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I have a question for Ms. Grom. I should have tried to catch where she stopped there. But and I'll just say this, I will defer to the good work that Representative Frederick and Representative Baker have done here, but I just had one question I wanted to make sure that I had an answer to from the department. Mr. Chair, Ms. Grom, if for whatever reason the department is unsatisfied with Marco, thinks they're doing a bad job, do you feel that with this language that the department has sufficient control and oversight to take action if Marco as an independent organization is not fulfilling the obligations that you'd expect it to?
That's a great question. Ms. Grom.
Mr. Chair, Senator Rasmussen, I am glad you asked that because that was the very reason we provided this technical assistance to Representative Frederick and the community, was to make sure that we were able to step in if something happened, whether it's a lack of funding, they went out of business, or there was some kind of egregious, inappropriate behavior happening as a state Medicaid agency. We need to have oversight of our provider enrollment for medical assistance, so we feel comfortable with this language.
Very good. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for your work in this, and please reach out to Ms. Gilman and also to Representative Gilman and Representative Baker. You guys have just been absolutely the forefront in moving this. And addiction is addiction, folks, in Minnesota, you know? So anybody else? We're good. Thank you very much. That's a deep one. So Representative Frederick, you move House A9 to House Language Article 4, Section 29. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. There you go. I think, the motion did prevail and it's adopted. So now we're going to go, Representative Frederick, you got a big one here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move to adopt House Section 1, the unofficial first engrossment of House File 2115, Senate Sections 1 and 2, House Section 3 as amended, House Sections 16 to 18, except take unofficial first engrossment of House File 2115, Senate lines 126.3 to 126.6, unofficial first engrossment of House File 2115, Senate Sections 6 to 8, House Section 25 as amended, in House Sections 26 and 34.
Do we know what we did with that? That's pretty in-depth. Do you remember that conversation, Neuer and Schumacher? Representatives, chairs, yes? Do you want to give us a little brief overview of that? Representative, one of you? Just.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think these are all the SUD sections.
Okay.
Some of it that we've just adopted, that change included.
All right. We're all good? All those in favor of the unofficial first engrossment? You want me to read those off? House Section 1. All agree, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We're there. So as long as you're in that same scene, I think Representative Chair Neuer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are now moved to the mental health provisions. This is in the Senate Health and Human Services. So just wanted to move
Just,
the.
can I get clear? This is Health and Human Services? Did we hear these bills in the Human Services Committee? Do you know? You guys, did we hear these? I am being funny, Joe. Senator Rasmussen, you do have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with you wholeheartly that we should adopt the jurisdiction of the House Committee going forward. And so I'm very much in support. And despite my best efforts today on the floor, Mr. Chair, I can unfortunately confirm that Senate File 2669, or the companion, did pass the floor today. So I'm glad that we waited for that bill to pass before adopting the committee report, though I tried very hard to prevent that from happening. So,
Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Well,
Add
if
to
you're unaware
that.
of some of the Health and Human Services work, we did a lot of stuff while you weren't there, so.
See, Chair's Newer and Chair Schumacher, it's just not, it's all around. You want me to you got the motion? All those in favor? You already read it. Everybody knows what it is. All in favor of the Newer's motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Post same sign.
Newer needs to read.
You have to read the motion.
Mr. Chair, I do think we need someone to read this.
Oh, I thought he did read
I
it.
started it and, well.
So now do I have to remove my thing?
Well, you just have to,
There's no motion.
Also,
you have like a clearing your throat in the minutes, so.
Mr. Chair, that's why we have a script before us,
Oh, that was good.
It has to be out loud to be legal, so.
Mr. Chair, motion to adopt House Section 2, Senate File 2669, Senate Section 2, except House File Section 4, line 113.21, and Senate Section 3, House Sections 5 to 8, and Senate File 2669, Senate Section 25, House Section 10 to 12, Senate File 2669, Senate Section 9, House Section 14, Senate File 2669, Senate Section 11 and 12, House Sections 19 to 23, House Sections 28 to 30, Senate File 2669, Senate Sections 22, and House Section 33. That's my motion, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Senator Fata.
Yeah, I didn't get that. Can you start from the beginning?
Senator Abler.
Mr. Chair, I know our viewing audience at home is dwindling, but could you help the viewers at home at least know what topic this is?
Yes, Senator, Representative Chair Newer.
Besides human services, healthcare, whatever, just like, what's the theme?
The theme is mental health, Mr. Chair.
It was those buckets that we did on the floor today, so. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Going to Representative Chair Newer. We're now in the Office of Inspector General.
Mr. Chair, I move that House A12 amendment to House Language Article 5, Section 1. This is the illegal, sorry, we have to stand on the mic here.
Yeah, you're good.
This is the illegal remunerations anti-kickback provisions. So we are getting the amendments before you, Mr.
That's right. Members, the A12's in front of you.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Abler.
I just got a process question here. A lot of the stuff that we went through earlier, some of our folks went through, did Senate people look over the House stuff that we're adopting, and like Senator Wickland's staff and others verify that these are all, so that, because I'm adopting a bunch of things, I have no idea what they are. I was at the hearing, Senator Hoffman.
You were.
And these were the first time, but I know there's some technical changes that happen and all that, and so.
And this is that famous room where you were asked the question, did I just leave? Remember that one? And
Oh, that,
it was
yeah.
in here.
Was that
Yes.
the room?
Yeah.
All right, so I just would.
You want to go to her?
Know that between our council and Senator Wickland and whoever over there is doing this stuff, that we're have some people vouching that this is squared away.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Representative Newer.
I think, yes, we did have the conversation with Senator Wickland, and we went through all these provisions, and Senator Wickler does agree for us to carry the bill.
Do you want to get her down here? I mean, she said she would be available to come
That'd
down.
be funny, but no, I'm confident with that. And
Okay.
I was on a conference committee with Senator Berglund in, I forget what year, it was, people in the room were there, it went 14 days, we ended on Mother's Day. And our work was so profoundly well, we had a 99-page fix-up amendment before we left.
Oh, my
So,
God.
I guess we didn't do as quite as good work then, but if you tell me that Senator Wickland has signed off on these, then I'm comfortable. And
We're
I'm happy
good?
to vote in her
You're
proxy.
good?
Thank you.
Senator Fate, you good? No? You- Go ahead. Yeah. No, we can do it now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a question about the amendments, 1.6. It says, I'm sorry, 1.5. It says, page 150, line 27, delete action, the word action, and it says, and the law enforcement or prosecutorial agency, okay, I'll start from the beginning, actually. It says the department refers the investigation to a law enforcement or prosecutorial agency for possible criminal prosecution, and the law enforcement or prosecutorial agency does not pursue a criminal action. So I was just wondering why we're deleting the word action, because it'll just say.
We're gonna go to the House. It's understood.
Mr. Chair and members, on page 150, line 27, action is deleted because all of the new language in that sentence is deleted and action is just on a separate line, so that's why it's listed separately. So this amendment, at the request of the department, reverts back to existing statutory language just for this piece of the anti-kickback proposal, the illegal remuneration proposal. That's what it does.
Yes. Let me see. So it's just reverting back to the old language. Okay, good.
So you good with that? Thank you, Ms. Sunderman. Okay. We're good? All those in favor of the newer motion, A12, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It is passed. Representative Newer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a technical amendment from the reviser, so I move House A18 amendment to House Language Article 5.
Is it the A18 or A12? I think Gander's got the A18. You got those? All right, okay. As it's being passed out, members, it is the A18. Do you want to explain why it's being handed out?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to defer to the non-partisan staff. This is the technical cleanup from the reviser.
Is that going to be Ms. Sunderman or Ms. Punelli? Ms. Sunderman.
Mr. Chair and members, this was requested by the revisor's office. It's inserting a section, but it's to strike a cross-reference to a section that is being repealed.
We're good? Senate's fine? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Representative Chair Newer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion to adopt House Section 1 as amended and House Sections 2 to 29, 31, 32, and 34, and Senate File 2669, Section 13.
We're on Article 5, correct? Members, we're on Article 5. Can you explain to us that? Because it's the OIG, and that's the other thing. It's not in our jurisdiction, but it should be in our jurisdiction. Senator Rasmussen, a question to the good representative from Minneapolis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure. So we're in Article 5, and I was wondering if Representative North could repeat the motion. I just want to make sure that it matches what I have here. Thank you.
Representative North.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is House Sections 2 to 29, 31, 32, and 34, and Senate File 2669, Section 13. That's what the motion is.
Representative, or Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess that's just not what I have in the script here, so I'm trying to follow along. I think the House sections are in the script, but the Senate file that was cited is not, so I just want to make sure that I understand what's going on.
So council, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was just something I found last night as I was going through the side-by-sides one last time. It was a provision that was dropped, I think, just with all of the clone bills in the House that is needed because it cross-references the new illegal remuneration crime. So the Senate was just carrying it.
Senator Rasmussen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm good. I just wanted to make sure that when Representative Norris says his motion again, that we include House Sections 1 as amended, just to make sure we have everything in there.
Are you going to make sure that motion as amended? You want to do that again?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the motion to adopt House Section 1 as amended and House Section 2 to 29, 31, 32, and 34, and Senate File 2669, Section 13.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Post same sign. You sure you don't have a clone you want to add to that, since you guys are into doing
Mr.
clones?
Chair, we do clones because we have 134 members.
All right. It's going to, it looks like Representative Gander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As much as I would like to move an A19 amendment,
This is good. Jim missed that one.
what I would actually like to move is that we adopt House Sections 1 through 6 of Article 6.
Members? Good? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Post same sign. You got any more you want to do? Because there was like no debate over you. So let's just give you everything else there, Representative Gander. Going back to Representative Frederick.
I mean, I'm happy to have Representative Gander make this one too. I'm just. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to adopt House Sections 1 through 10 of Article 7.
All those in favor of House Article 7 adoption, House Sections 1 through 10, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It is passed. Now we're going to children's mental health terminology. Representative Newer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is House Article 8. Motion to adopt House Sections 1 to 59, 61 to 70, 72 to 79, 81 to 86, and Senate Sections 62, 73, and 82.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 7 to 3. You all, everybody good? Is it? We're all good. All those in favor of the NOR adoption of the House Sections 1 to 59, 61, 70, 72, 79, 81, 86, and Senate Sections 62, 73, 82, and to say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. There you go. Now we're going to House Article 9. This is miscellaneous policy. Representative Newer, you want to just keep following up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is House Article 9, Federal Approval Report. So I will move the Senate A9 amendment to House Language Article 9 and Section 1.
All good? All those in favor? Oh, hey, ho. Jeez, I got the head shake over there. When you two shake your head, I'm like ready to go, and I saw both you shake your head. No? I will take my time. Although I do, you know, I'm kind of curious why we move a lot of House stuff. I don't see a lot of Senate stuff being moved. Is there a bias to us, Representative Schumacher and Newer? I mean, what's going on here? I'm feeling
We
rolled.
double work. You know, we've got 134 members, so we do a lot of work.
Okay. You guys really, this is really a lot of work. I appreciate that, and thank you for letting me. Even my wife says I'm not funny, but you know, it's just kind of nice to, you know.
Wonder how many votes your wife would get with that comment.
Oh, it was good. Members are looking at the A9.
A9, not A19, Mr. Chair.
It's okay.
So this is just to put, some, help put reports on the website for the public, and also to provide guidance for some of our members.
That's the notice to the public one. We're good? All those in favor of the A9 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. There we go. That is adopted. It prevails. The A9 amendment to House language is adopted. Claims, timeliness, and treatment providers, MCO clawbacks. Representative Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the House A17-1 to Senate language, Article 5, Section 1. Basically, an insurance company can go back to an SUD provider a year, 10 years later, and say, you owe us this money because they made a mistake. This was saying that if the provider then says, we made a billing error, this gives them a window to update things as well. And the language in this amendment represents a compromise between those two.
Senator Abler, your favorite word is in there, may and must.
Oh, there you go. What's the difference? Shall.
Yes.
Might. I'm just happy we can get this worked out. This was in my bill too, and it's just, I'm happy that the plans could sit down with providers and get this sorted out. It's only right, and so.
Wow.
It's hard enough working at the rates they have to work for without getting it stolen back or not getting it. So thank you. That's a good amendment.
Thank you, Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very interesting, I like this a lot, and I actually have a bill that will do the same thing for therapists. Part of the reason that a lot of them don't take insurance is because of the unlimited time in which insurance companies can come and claw back money, often if they have two insurances but the therapist didn't know. And anyway, this is a great idea. We'll be seeing this more. Is it? No, it's okay. We'll wait.
As long as we're doing it. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for Representative Frederick. Representative Frederick, are the health plans okay with this language? Is this compromise language? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you. This is great. All those in favor of the A17-1 amendment say aye. Aye. Post same sign. It prevails, and the amendment to the Senate language, Article 5, Section 1, is adopted. We will now entertain motions to adopt language within Article 9. Going back to you there, Representative Noor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion to adopt House Section 1 as amended, House Section 2, and an official first engrossment, House File 2115, Section 1 as amended.
That would be Senate Section 1 as amended, correct?
Senate Section 1 as amended. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All those in favor of motion to adopt House Section 1 as amended, House Section 2 and Official 1, first engrossment, House File 2115, Senate Section 1 as amended, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Post same sign. Thank you. We have one more amendment. Looks like Representative Noor, will you move this next amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is, I move that Senate 810 amendment to House File 2115. I think we'll turn to the Senate Council and House Research to explain the amendment for 810.
Mr. Monahan.
Mr. Chair, members, this amendment contains maybe 12.5 provisions that are currently in the the Human Services Budget Bill that are no-cost provisions that are being moved from that bill and inserted into various articles in this bill. I'm happy to go through it section by section if you would like.
Members, do you want Mr. Monahan to go through the section by section? This is what we talked about on Friday. This is what they were doing. They were taking the budget language that we all passed and yes, right? It is, no, it's just out of ours?
There's
correct. Yes. Why don't you give us a 10,000 foot, go ahead, Mr. Monahan, so everybody's on the same page. I'm okay with that. Only if anyone want to hear it. You guys want to hear it?
No.
I got two no's over here. One here and one there. What about you guys in the middle? You're good? It's a bipartisan no, so I think we're good. Oh, wait, Rasmussen, yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
all yours.
Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering if, Mr. Monahan, like I'm looking through pages 10, 11, 12, 13, and it looks like there's a number of, exemptions or exceptions that are being deleted. I was wondering if I just want to understand if there's a fiscal impact to that or what we're doing here.
Yeah. Monahan, Mr. Monahan.
Mr. Chair, members, this is part of my ever-ending attempt to clean up the statutes. All that language you're seeing stricken is obsolete. Those licenses and exemptions, some of them are many, many decades old, and they have already been implemented.
Senator Abler, to that point, please.
Oh, we're so fortunate to have Mr. Monahan. He's like, every day it's like a pleasant surprise. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I just want to go. You remember this 12 years ago, Senator Abler? Something about lining up the kitchen cabinets and putting the cans of corn up. And when you finally got to do that on some statutory stuff, and anytime he finds something that lines up, I just smile. That's the only joy is it's like, there it is. He lined it up. So, Senator Rasmussen, any follow-up on that? Motion, we're good? Anybody? Nope. Motion to adopt House Section 1 as amended, House Section 2 on the official first engrossment. Nope, we already did that one. A10 amendment to House File 2115. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. There it is. Seeing no further discussion, we're going to turn to final motions. Senator Ayler, do you have your 20 amendments that you wanted to bring at the last one? Or?
Mr. Chair, are we going to move this out tonight?
Yeah.
Is there any reason to not do that? If we need to have some vehicle available for something? No, well, we can always call it back.
Yeah.
So
you know what?
Mr.
I
Chair,
mean, it's only Wednesday. I'm serious. I mean, they can do all their work on this. Just keep it in mind, there's not a lot of really, I mean, this is like the best conference committee so far. And so, like, if they decide a global deal, we could put the global deal in here, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
But I mean, it's nice to have an available conference committee.
Look at Joe, go back to, all right. No, listen to this. What year were you, it was Kiskaden. I remember this.
Oh, yeah.
And who was the other one? Larry Poggemiller. And they had done that, and it was just, it's a great question to throw out. I'm not feeling the vibe here, Jim, but I'm saying that's a great question to throw on the table. Joe? Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Abler, we have 67 in the House. Everything that gets negotiated is very delicate. And so that's the approach that we have to take with everything.
No, Mr. Chair, and Senator Schumacher, I wasn't thinking we'd put some clinkers in here. I was just thinking it's just nice to have a vehicle that has some good undercarriage to handle even more weight if we need it. On some things you just kind of want to get done, that's all. So it's fine. I would not deign to upset the delicate House, you know.
Can we put a forecast grab in that, Jim, while he's
This is not the budget bill, Mr.
I know, thank you. So it sounds to me like the House, because they've done their corner offices and said, you got to do this, sounds like we just got to finish our work and then move on. Is that what I'm hearing?
Mr. Chair, we don't know what corner office is. Can you explain what that
is? That was a good one. All right. I'm not hearing anything. Senator Rasmussen?
Mr. Chair, can I make the motion?
You can make that you can do that motion. I love it.
Move to direct nonpartisan staff to prepare a conference committee report that reflects the will of this conference committee. I also move that nonpartisan staff are empowered to make technical and conforming changes to the language approved by this conference committee in order to reflect the intent of this conference committee.
All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. The motion is approved. Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. Members, this is the final hearing of the Conference Committee and Senate File 2115. Please be on any lookout for an email to sign the final Conference Committee report. Does anybody want to say anything of good of the order?
If you want to, before you drop the gavel, and this is a bizarre time.
Yeah.
We forever don't get along with the leadership crew. They should take a lesson from us about how to get along. But
I agree.
Just so people know that before this thing gets heard on the House floor, it is reopenable in the event you need a hitchhiking ride by things that are 67, and then whatever we need in the Senate. Just to advise you that, because these are times. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm done.
Thank you, Senator Abler. I want to say thank you to Chair Schumacher and Chair Neuer and everybody here that Jim Ramstad years ago, who was a congressman, he was a former state senator, he would tell us, you know, human services and education is about the individual that you're seeking, the matter at hand. Leave politics out of the conversation and leave your ego in the hallway. And I would hear him say that over and over again. And these are tough things we have to work on. And when we get to the budget, it's going to be the same thing. But look what we did here, right? I mean, you talk about a dynamic structure here, right? And we were able to come together and do what we do. I just want to say thank you to you guys. And I want to thank, let's go and Senator Representatives Neuer and Schumacher. But David Zach, thank you. Nick Stumo Langer, thank you. Megan Rosbach, thank you. I knew your grandpa. Thank you. Somebody should ask her who her grandpa is. That's like so cool to have that here. Our Senate CLA, Cassie Sword, thank you. The House CLAs, Elijah Henderson and Joseph Frahoff, thank you. Senate Research, Emily Spatera, Bryce Hinks have been with us for all. House Research, Molly Peterson, Tom Brennan, Allie Hoffman, Litchie, Leah Monahan, Danielle Punelli, who, by the way, it's Tony Bizignano's 73rd birthday today from good old Des Moines, and Sarah Sunderman. I think I got everybody on here, didn't I? Did I get? Yes, I did. Everybody, thank you so much for this. We can get it done, and I appreciate it. Mr. Chairs, anybody? And the public, thank you so much. Christy and Elise, you guys are absolutely amazing. But anybody else want to say anything? Chairs, Neuer, Chair Schumacher? With that, we are adjourned.